the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. It is Thursday, May 20th in the year 2021. And there was an article that I was looking forward to coming out for quite a while. CBS Sports ranks their top 65 Power 5 coaches. Where does Ryan Day fall? We'll discuss that here in a second. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeye. Lined up for today. In segment 2, we'll talk about where Ryan Day can improve to move up in these rankings. Segment number 3, Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com will help us learn how Tommy Togiai fits into the Browns' defensive scheme. We begin today's show going over the quick list, the rankings, Power 5 rankings, ranking the Power 5 coaches according to CBS Sports. Their writers, they do a phenomenal job. The Cover 3 podcast, if you do not listen or watch it via the YouTube, I thoroughly encourage you to check that out whenever they release a new episode. They do a phenomenal job covering college football. You have Chip Patterson, Tom Fornelli, Danny Cannell, and Bud Elliott. All three guys know the college football game. Danny Cannell used to play. All the others are entrenched into the sport in their own special way. So I thoroughly encourage you to check out that show. And they had been teasing this little ranking for a while. And I knew Ryan Day would be ranked. I was pretty sure he'd be in the top 10, possibly top 5, maybe top 3. But really, top 10 was a lock. And really, to me, top 5 was a lock as well. I would have been really shocked if Ryan Day came in at 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, or anything in that area. Just like Field falling outside of the top 10 to me would have shocked me. Day not being in the top 5 would have really, really shocked me as well. We'll go 10 through 1. I will not bore you with all 65 or even go through the list of Big Ten coaches. All I will say is Tom Allen, Hoosiers head football coach, number 20. Harbaugh, number 23. I'll leave it at that. 10 through 1. Here's the rankings via CBS Sports Radio, CBSSports.com, where they're ranking the top coaches at the Power 5 level. Number 10, Dan Mullen. Number 9, Matt Campbell. Number 8, this one surprised me, Pat Fitzgerald. Number 7, Kirby Smart. Number 6, Jimbo Fisher. Number 5, Brian Kelly. Number 4, Ryan Day. Number 3, Lincoln Riley. Number 2, Dabo Swinney. And number 1, Nick Saban. You hear the names. Nick Saban's almost a guarantee, like he's a lock. Dabo Swinney, many Ohio State fans cannot stand him, but he has still done a lot at the collegiate level for quite a long time for him to be solidified in that number 2 spot. It gets a little interesting with Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma and Ryan Day at Ohio State. One has longevity. One has dominated their conference for quite a while. Ryan Day's only had a couple years to dominate the Big Ten, and he has done just that. Number 5, Brian Kelly. This one's interesting to me, and I'll explain this very, very quickly. Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, he's been there for a long time, has been a program, has kept Notre Dame at the top, at a top program for the entire time. Yes, they've had some down periods. Some people say Notre Dame, if they ever get to the national championship game or they get in the playoff, it's a dud. They messed up. They embarrass themselves. They get really ran over. Think about it. They've been to the national championship game twice in the past 10 years. The 2012 season, 2013 BCS national championship game, they lost to Alabama. They got smacked. For those of you that may not remember that year, that was the year that Manti Te'o got duped. He had a fake girlfriend, and he had no idea. Then this past year in the semifinal game. They got beat by Alabama, but it wasn't like Notre Dame was a bad team. It doesn't. They're just a couple or one piece away from being the next level. Numerous 10-win seasons, numerous bowl appearances, bowl wins. Brian Kelly deserves this number 5 spot. But what did CBSSports.com have to say about Ryan Day and why he's the number 4th ranked coach in this year's rankings? Quote, this is coming from Tom Fornelli, who put the article together. Quote, I had been one of the voters holding Day back last season because I took a more patient approach. I felt that Day had inherited a pretty nice program from Urban Meyer, and I wanted to see how he maintained it. Well, 2 playoff berths and a title game loss later, and I'd say he's doing pretty well. Hell, you could say he's doing some things better than Meyer. Ohio State is easily one of the 3 best programs in the country, and Day has only made that more obvious since taking over, end quote. Last year's ranking, Ryan Day was number 10. He's moved up 6 spots to the number 4 position. Ryan Day, in his first 2 years at Ohio State as the head man of the football team, he was asked and was given the task to take Ohio State to another level. Think about back to when Jim Tressel came into Columbus and took over the job as head football coach at Ohio State, coming off the heels of the Cooper years and where it didn't really go well. Some flashes of some good play, but didn't really go like anybody thought that it would. Jim Tressel comes in, makes a promise, fulfills that promise, and then pulls off one of the most amazing upsets many people will ever see in their lifetime, beating one of the most dominant dynasties we'll see in a lifetime, that run from the Miami Hurricanes, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Those boys were just killing every single Saturday. But Jim Tressel came in and he took the program to a level that Cooper never took it. Multiple national championship appearances, won a national championship himself, numerous bowl wins, numerous Rose Bowl wins. And then what happened? Urban came in on the heels of really being on probation, took the program to another level, altered the offensive scheme, made recruiting a more solidified thing. Recruiting was already good, but it really was boosted by Urban Meyer when he left ESPN to come to Columbus. And Ryan Day's doing that very thing. He's up the level of recruiting, altered the offense, changing schemes, adjusting in ways that Urban never did. And this is only in 2 years. Imagine if Ryan Day stays 5, 10, 15 more years and stays at this trajectory. Ryan Day is a guy that we'll be talking about for a very long time that's very successful. Now, we hear where Ryan Day falls. What can he do to move up these ranks? We'll discuss that when we come back. But first, check this out. RockAuto.com is a family business serving auto parts customers online for 20 years. Go to RockAuto.com and shop for auto and body parts from hundreds of manufacturers. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. The RockAuto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose brands, specifications, and even prices you prefer. Best of all, prices at RockAuto.com are always reliably low. And safe for professionals and do-it-yourselfers. Go to RockAuto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. And as we continue today's episode here of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. If this is your first time listening or watching Locked On Buckeyes, I want to say welcome. Or if it's your first time in a long time watching or listening to the podcast, I want to say welcome back. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes so you don't miss a beat, because Locked On Buckeyes drops a fresh new episode for you every Monday through Friday. You can check the audio version, the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, youtube.com/LockedOnBuckeyes, or WKYC.com. So many areas to check out the podcast so you don't miss a beat. 1, Nick Saban. 2, Dabo Swinney. 3, Lincoln Riley. 4, Ryan Day. 5, Brian Kelly. I could be a guy that goes ahead and makes some comments and talks about how Jimbo is our 23, Tom Allen's number 20, Paul Chris 18, Kirk Ferentz 17, 13, James Franklin, 8, Pat Fitzgerald. I can harp on the fact that Harbaugh is barely in the top 25. He's only 2 spots ahead of PJ Fleck. I can do all that. I won't do that. That's for you guys to do on the Twitter to remind everybody where Jimbo currently is. But Ryan Day, ahead of Jimbo, has been ahead of Jimbo, and I believe he will stay ahead of Jimbo. Harbaugh, simply because he is proven. In the recruiting, he is elite. In game adjustments, he is elite. Off-season, making adjustments to his coaching staff, adding an offensive and defensive analyst, the new age thing to help take things off his plate, off the OC's plate and the DC's plate. Kevin Wilson and Kerry Coombs, they'll thoroughly enjoy having another set of eyes to assist them via the game planning and breaking down the film from the previous game and from their next opponent. But Ryan Day, to me, there's a couple things he can do, he's currently doing to move up these rankings. Number 1, has multiple national championships, is going to be top 2, top 3 as far as best college football coaches of all time, probably easily top 5. But I don't know if you could really find somebody. You say Paul Bear Bryant, you say Nick Saban. Who is that third person that could be there? It's a Bobby. Bobby Bowden. Is it Tom Osborne? Is it Newt Rockne? I mean, going old school. Is it one of those guys that is really top 3, better than Saban? I don't know. You get recency bias, you see Saban there. But what can Ryan Day do to move up these rankings? A couple things. Well, there's a few of them. We only got a little time to discuss the things that he is currently doing and things that maybe need to be tweaked in the future. First thing on my mind, adjustments in the offseason. These are not in any particular order, just the things that come to my mind. Adjustments in the offseason. What have we seen this year? And I'm going current things first because it's going to be fresh in our minds. Ryan Day, we have seen him bring in an analyst. I mentioned that earlier, an offensive and defensive analyst to help Kerry Coombs, to help Kevin Wilson, and really help Ryan Day game plan, brainstorm, break down tape, make informed scouting reports. We have seen Ryan Day do all of these things to really just aid him to make his job easier. And you already know, more 2 set of eyeballs, 3 set of eyeballs are a whole lot better than 1 set of eyeballs. And Ryan Day is taking a page from Nick Saban's book. You've seen what Nick Saban has done, being able to delegate, being able to adjust. And just that fact there that he's able to delegate. A lot of coaches can't do that. But you saw Urban Meyer. There were times when the adjustments needed to be made or alterations needed to be made on a coaching staff, or really just in-game changing things in the moment didn't happen. And there were times that games were lost or games were very close to being lost because of stubbornness. Ryan Day's learning. I can't do everything on my own. The guys that I got, they're great. We can bring some more great guys into this fold to help us be successful, more successful than we've already been. Things in the offseason. This offseason, altering the defense, going from a base 4-3 to a base 4-2-5. I do think in that as well, haven't heard it just yet. I do think you'll see some variations where you may see not just a single high safety with 3 corners. You could easily see that transform, that one LB. It could go to 2 high safety, look more of a nickel look, traditional nickel look, but that other safety, the hybrid position, the bullet, no matter if it's Lathan Ransom or Craig Young, whoever's playing that spot, them being back there is just like Isaiah Simmons from Clemson a couple years ago, Mike Jones Jr. from last year, being able to roam on the defense, making adjustments in the season, off season, really helps you make better adjustments in the season. Recruiting. Ryan has already been an elite recruiter. Can he get better? Yes. Will it be hard? Yes. You're competing against Clemson, competing against Alabama, competing against Georgia, Oklahoma. Not so much Texas anymore. You're possibly going to be pulling a transfer from USC to go from SoCal to come to Columbus. Talk more about him tomorrow. Why am I keep putting this off? Talk about him tomorrow because it is a linebacker. You miss out on Henry To'oTo'o. There's another guy out there that might be a Buckeye very, very soon. Recruiting your elite. Being able to develop talent. Not just from Justin Fields. But have you seen the wide receivers that he's developed? Have you seen the running backs that have developed quickly, that have developed? The offensive line that has gotten better, the defensive line, the linebackers. I honestly think that linebacker play this year will be better than advertised. A lot of people are nervous. They haven't really played before. What are we going to get? I'm sitting on pins and needles. It's Ohio State. It's Ohio State. Ryan Day knows what he's doing. There's a reason why Al Washington stayed at Ohio State. I think the LB position, there'll be some growing pains early on. You might see some mental lapses week 2, but trust me, I trust this group because I trust Ryan Day. One last thing that I know for sure Ryan Day can do. Saban has a national championships. Sweeney, national championships. Multiple national championship appearances as well. Lincoln Riley, I think Lincoln Riley just has the longer success, more success than Ryan Day in the conference solidified. No matter what Oklahoma has done in the playoff, I think if Ryan Day had been at Ohio State the same length that Lincoln Riley had been at Oklahoma, and neither one of them had a national championship win, and Day has one appearance, Lincoln Riley has none, I think Day would be above Lincoln Riley. I am surprised Brian Kelly is 5. I think you're projecting a lot from what Brian Kelly has done. Really looking back at what he has done, and I think you could swap 4 and 5, and it, to me personally, wouldn't be a problem. But you get Ryan Day a national championship or 2. The next time these rankings come out, these rankings come out next year, if he wins it this year, a national championship, I expect him to move up. More Big Ten conference domination, I expect him to move up. Another national championship appearance. Without Lincoln Riley there, it's going to be very, very hard to keep Ryan Day in that 4 spot because it's really getting kind of clear. He's moving in a trajectory that he is really moving up these charts very, very quickly and swiftly. Can't move very far when you're at 4, but Saban might be gone soon. Couple rings on Ryan Day's hand, he could be at the number 1 spot. Let's step away very quickly. When we come back, we will welcome in Miss Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat writer for Cleveland.com, as she helps us learn about how Tommy Togiai fits into what the Browns do on defense. But first, check this out. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Baseball season is in full swing, and you can track all the action at BetOnline. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs, including MLB, NBA, NHL, and all your UFC/MMA action. Before the next pitch, head over to BetOnline on your laptop or mobile device and check out all the great sporting news, sign-up bonuses, and contest information. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore, as this is your chance to get into the game as teams prep for the runs to the playoffs. Head to betonline.ag on your laptop or mobile device to sign up today. And when you do, make sure you use promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sports book. And joining us now here on Locked on Buckeyes, it's our final guest to help us recap the draft. It's Mary Kay Cabot, the Browns beat writer for Cleveland.com. Mary, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I know a lot of Buckeye fans were doing well. They were very, very happy when they heard that Tommy Togiai would be staying in Northeast Ohio playing for the Cleveland Browns. When you first heard and it was announced that Tommy Togiai would be playing for the Browns or would be drafted or was drafted by the Browns, what went through your mind?
Well, the first thing was that I was glad that they were drafting an Ohio State Buckeye. I always love to see the Buckeyes join the Browns. Denzel Ward has represented so well, and that's been wonderful. So it's really nice to have another Buckeye on board. I know that is great for the synergy between Buckeyes fans and Browns fans. Cleveland fans love it. Columbus fans do too. So I think that's fantastic. And then the other part about it is that the first thing that occurred to me is that he's joining a very crowded room. This is a pretty crowded defensive tackle room, and he's going to have to really work hard to get in there and get some playing time. But I think he will. I think he will get that playing time early on. I think he'll be part of that rotation. He's obviously really good against the run. He's stout. He's solid. He's played at a high level of competition, and I think this is tremendous.
If you could go a little bit further into that rotation, the defensive tackle room, those players there, and how he fits and how he'll find, or if he will, find significant playing time this year.
Well, they really have a sea change on the defensive line this year. They will only have Myles Garrett back from last year, and everybody else will be different and new. And that holds true for the defensive tackle position. They signed Malik Jackson, a longtime veteran, who was most recently with the Eagles, and he'll get a lot of playing time. Andrew Billings is coming back out of COVID-19 opt-out. They signed him before last year as a free agent from the Bengals. And he's another one who will challenge for a starting role inside there. There's still also a possible chance that Sheldon Richardson could come back. So we cannot rule that out at this point. And so therefore, now if Sheldon comes back, that changes the landscape a lot. But if he doesn't, I think it will be easier for Tommy to get in there. But I think he'll be part of that rotation, whether it's Malik and Sheldon, Malik, Andrew, and then Tommy coming on in there. They also signed Marvin Wilson as an undrafted free agent out of Florida State. And they signed Malik McDowell, the former second-round pick of the Seahawks, who got himself into some legal trouble, but is getting his life turned around. So, it's a crowded room, and he's going to have to be on point. It was nice to see him out there for rookie mini camp, mixing it up with the guys a little bit. And I just mean from the standpoint of just getting some work in, because the veterans really are not in yet. And so the rookies are having an opportunity to get out there, get on the grass, and let the coaches see what they're all about a little bit.
When I think of Togiai, I think of a guy that's a bruiser, a guy that can move people. He's very disruptive early on in the offensive flow, what the offense is trying to do in the interior, in the trenches. He can disrupt things consistently. We saw the 40 reps on the bench press that he did at his pro day, and it was kind of just confirmation of what we saw during the season. NFL game's a different game, a different animal. These are pros. These are men's men. And these guys, they see guys like Togiai with that strength all the time. Do you think there'll be some growing pains early on as he starts playing NFL football?
Well, there usually are for rookies. There's a learning curve that they have to adjust to. And now you look, last year they drafted in the third round Jordan Elliott out of LSU, another really good player at the college level who played at a very high level of football, just like Tommy did. But there still is that learning curve when you get into the league. You have to learn the game. You have to learn how to function in that space. You have to learn the defense of Joe Woods. So I would say that he might have a similar learning curve to Jordan, and Jordan's going to be trying to get on the field more this year than he did last year as well. Tommy and some of the other guys that were drafted in this draft a couple of weeks ago are, for the most part, not expected to come in and knock over the world right away. They're developmental projects to a certain degree, and it will be that way for him, for all the rest of the rookies, most of the rest of the rookies. A couple of them, I think, will start right away. But I think Tommy will be one where, they'll work him in, and he will get more reps if he proves that he's worthy.
What have you heard from the coaches, either position coaches or the head coach, about Togiai? It's kind of like their thoughts about him so far.
Well, we haven't talked to anybody too much since the rookie camp has taken place, but he did look the part. And I think that's important, even though, we didn't see a whole lot in rookie camp. We saw individual drills and walkthroughs mostly, but you can tell if a guy fits in pretty early on. And he did. I mean, he passed the eyeball test. And that's one thing that NFL reporters always like to go to rookie camp for. We want to see who passes the eyeball test. And sometimes they do right away. Sometimes they don't. It doesn't mean it's a deal breaker if they don't. But I will say that Tommy did. You can see some things right away that let you know. Are they picking things up? Are they taking the coaching well? He did all of that. From a physical standpoint, he looks like a big NFL defensive tackle. So the coaches are really excited about him as, once again, as somebody to get into this system and work with the defensive line coach, Chris Kiffin, who is excellent at developing young players. And they're excited about Tommy. And I think they will make every effort to get him on the field as early as they possibly can.
Last question for you. Do you expect for Togiai to get a second contract with the Browns?
That's a great question. And, we won't know that for a while, obviously, because, he's going to get 4 years to prove that he should get that second contract. But he seems to me to be the prototypical kind of player that the Browns really like. And I think that the possibility is there for him to do just that. But he's got to stand out above the rest, because I don't want to say that defensive tackles are easy to come by, but it's usually easier to find somebody that can plug up that middle and take on a couple of blockers and stop the run than it is to find your excellent pass rusher who's going to come off the edge and get those sacks. So he's going to have to stand out and establish himself early on and continue to get better. But if he does those things, they loved what they saw of him on his film. And if he continues that trajectory, he'll have an excellent chance.
I love that response. Mary Kay, if you could, let everyone know where they can connect with you on Twitter, and then also where they can catch some of your articles as well.
On Twitter, at Mary Kay Cabot. And then my articles are on cleveland.com. And I also do some things with WKYC Channel 3 as their Browns analyst. And, we have our podcasts every day as well. And, we go 5 days a week on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, which you can find that anywhere you get your podcasts, of course, the usual places. And we love doing them. And we get, we get a lot of great positive feedback. So hopefully you'll tune in.
Hopefully, I'm sure a lot of Buckeye fans, when they hear that every single day that the podcast comes out, they'll definitely want to check it out. Mary Kay, thank you so much for coming on Locked on Buckeyes and letting us learn more about Togiai and his fit with the Browns.
My pleasure.